So normally, we would have these workshops with 20 or 30 people in a conference room, and we'd go around the room and sort of start our networking right in the classroom. So if you want to put in the chat box maybe where you live, like I said, there's people all over the state. I think there's close to 200 of you out there. Where do you live and what kind of occupation are you looking for? And you might be surprised that people might already today start helping you in your job search with some connections. So there we go, Minnetonka, Mankato, Superior, Alex, Mankato. I love Mankato, what a great town. Twin Cities, Engineers, yeah, huge variety. So if you're in that area and you know someone that someone can talk to, you have a connection, feel free to start networking right now. I think it's wonderful. I mean, we're kind of all in this together, and so the more we can help each other, the better. And helping those employers. Oh, a travel agent. Good for you. I was in the travel industry for a long time. But if you can help somebody out, it's going to help your fellow mankind. It's going to help employers because they're all looking for people, and we're all trying to do this together. So if you can make a connection with someone, that's terrific. So let's get started on this thing. How do we do this job search? And I'm going to go back a screen. And just thinking about this series is called Creative Job Search, and I think we're having to be more creative and employers are having to be more creative during this COVID-19 situation, way more than ever in the past. And of course, we've lost some businesses, and some businesses are having to reduce hours and things because they can't find people. What we want to do is help you get into a job and help those employers get good job seekers that are ready to take on the task. But we need to be creative, and employers are being very creative because they're having to make sure that you walk into a safe environment, right? That there's masks, that there's hand sanitizers, that everything is cleaned. And so they've got a lot on their minds about that, as well as trying to find people. So it's important for everyone to be prepared and make this as easy for employers to see that you are a great candidate for them. You know, and everything is changing on a daily basis, especially those of you with kids in school. I mean, they might be in school right now, but what do you do if they suddenly have to go and do school from home? Are you prepared to do that? Those sorts of things. So everyone is really juggling. There's a lot going on. But we just wanted to get you some of the tools, some of the ideas, things that we know work to help you get through this, and just helping to try and have you keep that positive attitude going, because it's really going to be helpful for you to stay positive through all of this. As difficult as it may be, we need to try and stay positive. Because losing a job affects you emotionally and psychologically and obviously financially. And, you know, if you were in a job where you were delivering packages for UPS and now you're not, that activity is now gone as well. So that may be a change for you. You know, so we want you to think about all of those things, about how it has impacted your life, what's changed and is not so good, and maybe what's changed that is going to open up some new doors for you, okay? They say that losing a job is right up there with some of those most stressful events in your life, like divorce or separation, loss of a loved one. So it's a big deal, and you have to give yourself credit for those feelings, okay? But also remember that your career, what you are doing, is not the total representation of who you are. You're so much more than that, and you need to, you know, keep that in mind. Going from employed to unemployed is difficult because maybe now you're home with your partner, your spouse is home, and kids might be home. It's a little bit different than what we've gone through before. And you know what? Everyone you talk to is going to have an opinion about how your job search should be going. And it can be hard for people to understand that it's taking a while longer because, A, you do want to be safe when you go back to work. You do have to manage that home thing with the kids and all those sorts of things. So it's different than what people went through before. They may say, oh, it only took me 2 weeks to get a new job. Well, you weren't in the same situation maybe. So be sure that you take those things with a grain of salt and sort through the messages that you're getting from other people, and be sure that it's your story. But it might be a good time to take inventory, like I say, of what's changed that is not so good financially, but what changed that's good, because maybe that job wasn't the best job for you, and now you have a clean slate. You can look for something different, okay? Which, you know, it might open up a door. It might get you into schooling, into something that you didn't think that you'd be able to do. So be sure and connect with us on all of those different things, and give yourself credit for not always being on the top of your game. And your days might look like this emotional roller coaster. And to keep you in mind that this is normal. Some days you're going to have some self-doubt and some sadness. I'm never going to find a job. I'm never going to find a job at the same salary I had before. And that may be a reality, but to pick yourself up and say, you know what, I'm going to mobilize my resources, I'm going to get some leads, I'm going to take some action, you know, and then, you know what, those leads don't pan out. But you know what, do something different, try something different to keep going on this roller coaster, because at the end, as you see, it typically ends up with finding a good opening. So maybe in the chat box, put in, where are you on the emotional roller coaster? How are you feeling right now? You know, and where you are in this. And like I say, remember, this is absolutely normal to be feeling some of these things. Bored. Yeah, it might have been a very long time that you've been at home, and I would probably be in the same boat. Sadness, nervous. Yeah, things are changing. So confused on what direction to go. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, that, you know, like I say, you've got a clean slate now, and so maybe it's time to make a change and do a little bit of personal inventory on what you're up to. So going into this, recognizing your feelings, that you're frustrated, you're nervous, you're depressed. What are you doing with those feelings? How are you addressing that? You can't really keep it inside, because, you know, you could explode one day. I'm kidding, but you might, you don't want to keep it all inside. This has been going on way longer than you expected. Absolutely, no one thought that they'd be dealing with this however many months later on. So find a place, a person you can talk to about your feelings. Maybe not talk to the other people that also got laid off at the same time you did, because they may be feeling the same way. You need positivity. You need, you know, positive feelings coming from that other person, support from that other person. You know, find a safe place. Even if it's journaling, writing down, how do you feel about what's going on? Write a journal, maybe exercising, spend more time with friends and family, those sorts of things. And then, you know what, forgive your former employer. Chances are it was due to COVID. It's a business decision, it's not personal. Forgive COVID. I mean, we didn't ask for this, right? But we have to deal with what's going on. You know, your previous boss did not do this to you personally. It's a business decision. It's coronavirus related. Hopefully things will come back. I mean, obviously we hope that. But in the meantime, accept the change of what's going on in your world, because you have to accept it before you can truly, in your heart of hearts, move on, okay? And if you don't accept it and let it go and move on, when you go to the next interview, they may see that tension on your shoulders, that little bit of bitterness that you're still hanging on to, and you don't want them to see that. So you really have to let it go. Maybe you want to write a letter to your former boss, write a letter to coronavirus with just how angry you might be. Of course, you would never send the letter. You would never, let them know exactly how you feel, but as part of letting it go, getting it off your chest so that you can move on, truly, truly move on, okay? It's your attitude that's going to help you decide whether you want to move on or not. You don't have to. I mean, you can keep looking for the same thing you've looked for. Hopefully there's something out there, but there, you may have a change coming ahead, and you may have to just accept that. Totally up to you how you deal with that. But you know what? Every day you have a choice in how you're going to feel that day. Obviously, we want to feel stronger. We don't want to feel meek. We want to feel energized. You know, it is hard to lose your job, but you don't want to feel demoralized. You want to be the best person you can be. You want to be positive. You don't want to be negative. But it's really, truly all about your attitude. And so maybe in the morning you want to get up and you want to look in the mirror when you're getting ready to start your job search stuff. And maybe you want to say, would I hire me today? If I were in the hiring world, would I hire myself today? Am I the best version of myself today? And you know what? Some days you're going to wake up with your crabby pants on, and that's maybe not the best day to go out networking. You got to get over that so that you can be the best that you can be. Yes, watch for that negative self-talk. That can really take over easily, very easily. So yeah, just making sure that you keep your attitude in check every single day. And some of those things you can do to stay positive, like I say, talking with others, other positive people. When I lost my job 9, 10, 11 years ago, I went to talk to my pastor at church. And so then when I would have those days where I had my crabby pants on and I just wasn't feeling the best I could feel, I would stop and think, what would Robin say to me right now? What would she say to me to lift me up and make me feel better? You know, you want to be around positive people because it attracts positivity. It's going to help you, and it may help the other person that you're talking to. Support groups and job clubs, you know, we offer some of that. Like I say, we offer the one-on-one opportunities as well. So, you know, if there is a support group, if there is a job club that you can attend, oh, I highly recommend that. There's some could be local, some could be statewide. So be sure that you stay on top of the careerforcemn.com workshop calendar so that you keep on top of what's going on. They say that exercise is good for you. Now, I didn't go that route, but I probably should have. But go out for a walk on a beautiful day. I mean, that can just be the trigger that gets you from feeling that negative to positive. Exercising is good. Counseling. If you need resources from professionals, please, by all means, reach out. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And here's that positive self-talk, positive affirmations. And when I get to this, and some of you will recognize this, Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live many, many years ago, you know, I think that one of these things he would say to himself in the mirror is, you know what, you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you. Some of you may remember who that character was on the show. But those positive affirmations, this whole thing is not your fault. You will find maybe even a better job or a better career or something that will make you happy. There you go. You got it, our senator. Tell yourself that you are capable of meeting this challenge. You're a good person and good things are going to happen to you. Tell yourself that in the morning. It's going to just feel good. It's going to maybe even write it on your mirror, you know, or put Post-it notes all over to remind yourself that you are a good person and good things will happen. So write down what are some of the things that you do. I did say someone would go for a walk on a beautiful day always helps you feel more positive. Exactly. Enjoying your hobbies, those sorts of things. You can volunteer. You know, and that's a good thing because it gets you out and about, and you never know who you're going to be standing next to if you're packing kids' backpacks for school, or you're deadheading roses at a rose garden, or something like that. You might be volunteering next to the person that is the human resources for Medtronics, and that's exactly who you want to talk to. Be sure that you don't volunteer 40 hours a week while you're on unemployment. That could be bad for you because you are job searching as well. So, yeah, put in the chat box some of the things that you do to stay positive. Remember, breathing is good, and then maintaining some structure, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Getting plenty of sleep, yoga, meditating, humor is all good. Walking your dog, positive self-affirmations, they go a long, long way. That's great. So keep typing those in, and they may resonate with other folks on the call. So here's your game plan for moving forward, right? So some of you said you don't know what you want to do next. Well, there's websites out there, and these links will all be in the PowerPoint that you get. They're all active, good websites to help you maybe figure out what you want to do next. CareerForceMN.com, of course, is great. There's a skills assessment out there that you can take to see, with the skills I have today, what are some other opportunities that might be out there for me, kind of using that same skill set, if you will. There's interest assessments out there as well, which is nice because I think that where your interests and your skills collide would be the ideal job, because you've got the skills to do it and you've got the interest in it. You're going to want to go to that job every day. And that's what we want. We want a good fit. We want a good job. We want something we're going to be at for a long time, so you don't have to come back to these workshops and listen to us. Again, get into something that you're going to be at for a long time. And it may help you discover skills and hidden talents that you didn't really think of before, which is great. I mean, I think that when I take the interest assessments, every time it comes up with I should be a farmer, and I think that that goes back to when I was a kid. I used to spend summers on my grandpa's farm in southern Minnesota, down in Elmore, if any of you southern folks know that little town. And I always dreamt of having my own farm, which is great. So that's kind of inside of me. There aren't very many farmer jobs out there, though, so I'm not a farmer yet, but I do keep an open mind. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, farming is great. But that's one of those things that is deep inside of me that maybe an interest assessment can pull out of you. Because you don't want to just limit yourself with, this is all I can do. This is what I've done before. This is all I can do. Don't limit yourself to those things, okay? Look at the bigger picture of what are all the different things that you can do. And then doing labor market research to find out if this is a growing career. I saw someone who was a travel agent. I'm not sure that that's on the upswing. So you may have, you know, what else can you do with those skills? Obviously, attention to detail and planning and those sorts of things. What else can you do with those skills? And some of these sites will help you try and figure that out. And then they'll help you find those skills gaps. So if I was, a dental assistant before, what could I do now with basically those same skills? Maybe I could be easily turned into helping in surgery at a hospital, because I learned to sterilize tools. I learned which tools you need for each procedure, if you will. So some of those skills can transfer. Scheduling, appointments, calming people down when they're going in for a procedure, some of those things. So keep an open mind. Again, recommend the dislocated worker services. If you do have a skills gap where you need some certification, some short-term training, be sure to reach out to your local career force. Yeah, not going well for business travelers. Oh, crumb, I'm so sorry to hear that. But what do you need to get into that different opportunity? So if you need a short-term certification, dislocated worker services may be just a ticket for you, okay? So some of these websites, so this is the online tools page for CareerForce. Now I took this screenshot a little while ago, so it may not look exactly like this any longer, but right on top they're taking an employment readiness assessment. Find out what do you need in order to be ready to go look for that job. The interest assessment, the skills assessment, some of those jobs that are high in demand during COVID-19, might be of interest to you. Occupations in demand, it's a really great place to start your job searching, sort of interest, getting ready to go into the job searching. And you know what, if you do some of these things and you've set up an account, you can do all this stuff without setting up an account. But if you do set up an account on careerforcemn.com, it's going to save your results of your interest and skills assessment. So you can go back and you can build some goals based on that information. So I really, truly encourage you to actually go set up an account in careerforcemn.com. There's also a resume builder out there too that you can use when you're ready for that. Here's the screenshot for My Skills, My Future, and this is where you might type in your current or past job, travel agent, click on Find My Career Matches, and see what else might match up using those same skills that you used in your previous employment. Sorry about that. Yeah, and then it will dive deeper into those careers. This is a state of Minnesota site, Job Skills Transfer Assessment School. A tool, kind of the same thing. Type in when you're looking for an occupation, and you can drill down. This screenshot looks like we've opened up business and financial operations, and you can then drill down more into business analyst, accountant, business managers, those sorts of things, to find out what are those jobs like. What do I need to do to get into those jobs? Where's the skills gap? That sort of thing. So now you're preparing for the job hunt. So we want to really talk about getting organized and some things that you can do to stay on track, stay accountable to yourself and to your family. I know when I lost my job 10 or more years ago, I sort of had to be accountable to my husband because he wanted to make sure I was on track and I was actually looking for a new job. And for some of you too, if you're on unemployment, you want to be sure that you keep good records of what you're doing in your job search, okay? And so we're going to talk about some of those tools that you need to stay on track. So managing your schedule. So you are more than just looking for a job. You're a mom, you're a dad, you're a grandma, you're all these different things. So you need to sort of balance that out, your job search activities. So writing your resume is job search activity. Doing those interest and skills assessments, that's all job search activity that you do in a day that you want to track what you've done. And Sheila's going to talk in a few minutes about SMART goals when we get to the next page. But you want to be sure that you keep good records, whatever system works for you, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or whether it's a 3-ring binder or it's recipe cards in a little file box. You know, a 3-ring binder, just handwritten, this is what I'm doing. Keeping track of all of your contacts. Detailed record of your work history so that you can easily put it into an application or into your resume. And when you take the resume workshop, you're going to see that information in your resume may change every time you write one, every time you apply for a job. So you want to keep that information at your fingertips. You know, recording all of your contacts. Who did you talk to? What did you talk about? How did that conversation end? Did it end with, I'm going to call them, or they're going to check with people and they're going to call me back? You need to be sure that you keep track of all that information. You know, the networking, who have you talked to? So to keep you on track. And if you have good records and an employer calls you, you want to be sure that you've got that job posting that you applied for, you have that resume that you sent to them, you've got information about everything that pertains to that particular job all in one area, so that when they call you 2 or 3 weeks later to find out more about you, you're ready to talk to them, okay? So keep your eye on the ball, keep everything together so that you do your job search, you do your personal activities, you keep it balanced so that you stay happy and you stay positive. Because it's easy to get sidetracked. You may even want to, if you haven't done this already, set up an email account just for your job search so that it is easier to stay on track. You can check your personal one, you know, after you're done doing your job search. But maybe keep one very professional that is just for your job search. Might help you keep things on track. So I think with this next screen, I think that Sheila is going to talk about, she's going to talk about SMART goals. And maybe if we have some questions coming up that we can answer, we can take a break now as well. So Sheila, over to you.
Sure. And there were just a couple questions, Rhonda, if you want to address those right now.
Sure.
Someone asked about if we're aware of any free training for the field of finance or accounting. You have any ideas there?
No, to get into the higher level, I mean, some entry-level stuff can be found on the website gcflearnfree.com, basic accounting sorts of things. If you're just going for a bookkeeper sort of position, it would be very basic, but that might be one place to start, and that may give you more information as well. If you need an accounting course, though, again, talk to gcflearnfree.com. Oh, is it learnfree.com or .org? It's .org, I'm sorry. You may want to talk to a dislocated worker counselor. I think that there's plenty of jobs in that field, so if they can help with the short-term training, I'd be sure and check in with them.
Yeah, and someone had mentioned the website lynda.com for free training, and I went to that website and it wouldn't open, so I don't know if it's still available or not.
Oh, lynda.com.
Lynda.com,
I have not ever heard of that. I can't say anything about that.
Yeah, and like Rhonda mentioned, there's the one-on-one appointments you can sign up for, and if you need a computer, you know, to look at some of that stuff, you could do that if you can get an in-person one-on-one appointment at Career Force somewhere. So keep that in mind as well. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so SMART goals. I'll just go over those quickly. When I see a resource to use, something like this, it helps if I have an example. So I just wanted to give you an example of what a SMART goal is. And really the SMART goals are to help you balance your job search and help you stay on track and keep yourself accountable for what you're doing during your job search. So first of all, specific, what exactly do you want to do in your job search? You want to make sure your goal is realistic and something that you're able to accomplish so you don't get discouraged and give up on it. So in this example, what we want to do is prepare a resume. And so measurable, how are we going to know we're on track to complete this goal of making a resume? Some things you could do is you could set some mini deadlines. You could tell a friend so they keep you accountable. Or at some point you could present your rough draft of your resume to a career counselor at Career Force. You know, give yourself a timeline, say within 10 days you're going to present it to them. And then achievable. What resources are you going to use to help you achieve this goal? And Rhonda's mentioned several already, like the skills assessments she talked about. It's a great place to get some skills to emphasize on your resume. We have our resume writing workshop through Career Force. That one is coming up on September 28th. And then you can also look at your job descriptions from past jobs, have your work history available. And one thing that I like to use is recommendation letters from past employers or performance reviews, because there you can get some ideas of how other people perceive your work. And it gives you some good ideas of things to put on your resume. And then relevant, why is this goal important in your job search? Well, of course, today a lot of our job search is online, uploading your resume to online applications, emailing your resume to employers. So it's really good to keep an updated resume ready to go. And then, you know, once you have a good base for your resume, it's easy to target it to specific jobs. You know, and this will relieve some of that stress that Rhonda was maybe talking about. And then you might have more than one resume. You know, for example, I have a background in business management and in teaching, so I have two separate resumes based on those career goals. And then timely, when are you going to complete this goal? It's good if you give yourself a specific date to keep you on track, and give that date to your friend that you told about your goal of completing a resume. So maybe your timeline could be, incorporating some of that feedback you got from the career counselor within 2 days. And then you'll have your final resume ready to go. And remember, you can always be working on more than one goal at a time, but just make sure they're manageable so you don't give up on them. And then prioritize your goals, doing, what you need to do today to return to work as soon as possible. And in the follow-up email we send, we will provide you with a SMART Goals worksheet, so you kind of have a guide to go by when you're working on these SMART goals. And of course, if you need help, please reach out to a career counselor at a career force near you. Okay, back to you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Sheila. And I appreciate you talking about the upcoming workshop. I did print off what's going on this week. And if you're signed up on mnd.gov, I believe, you can get this information sent out to you on a weekly basis. Tomorrow's workshop is the New Leaf workshop, which is kind of like creative job search condensed for folks with a criminal record and are having a hard time with that, kind of navigating that world. So that's tomorrow from 10 to 11:30, and you register for that the same way you registered for today. On the 15th is the interview skills workshop. The resume workshop, I think, will be next week. Then I believe they alternate weeks. So be sure to connect with folks on those workshops and take advantage of those. They're really good workshops, and it's all part of what we can do to help you get back to work. So you've got your goals set, and now you're going to start that looking for work. And I can't emphasize enough how important research is when you're doing your job search. You want to research the company's products and services to see if it's something, again, is this on the rise, or is this something that's, kind of on the down slope. If it's a company that's, their size, if it's huge and you want to work for a small company, keep that in mind, because we want you to be happy. We want it to be a good fit. Think about the company's history and their location. I talked with someone this morning, and she said, I'm looking for jobs, and they're an hour and a half away from here, the ones that match. I just can't do that. So be sure that you think about that. And especially if you've got small kids and you're going to daycare, do you want to spend an hour in the car with them on your way to drop them off at daycare? Or do you want to be an hour away from them should something come up and you need to get back to them? So think about the location. And I know a lot of you in the Twin Cities, you do drive a long way to get to work sometimes. I do know that. I grew up in the Twin Cities. I worked out at Carlson Companies for a good long time, so I know what working for a mega company is like. They've got a great history, and the location was perfect. It was a good gig. Thinking about their financial situation, if you see them on the front page of the newspaper, their paychecks are bouncing. Not going to be a company for you, so keep that in mind. Their mission statement or their philosophy. So going back to Carlson Companies, and I'm not knocking them. This is how Mr. Carlson built the organization that he built, but part of his philosophy that trickled down even to Rhonda, who was a peon in the human resources department, was you work 40 hours a week to stay on par with the competition. You work on the weekend to get ahead. And that's just was their philosophy, never written down anywhere, but that was sort of the trickle-down effect that was there. And it's a great company to work for. I got incredible work ethic working there, and it was a great gig for me. So think about mission statements. Up here in Duluth, there's a hospital that says the patient above all else. And if that resonates with you, if you're in the medical field, you want to be sure that you mention that in the interview, those sorts of things. So be sure that you research a lot. Maybe thinking about recent changes or initiatives. Maybe they're letting everybody work from home now, and that would be perfect for you. Or maybe a recent change is You've been home long enough, you're coming back into the office, and maybe that is good for you. Maybe you've been home long enough, and you want to do that. Some of their human resource policies. I know that some offices here, or some companies that work in our Career First location have a policy that in the summer you can work a longer day, Monday through Friday, and have Friday afternoons off to go play in the sunshine. It's an HR policy. Think about those sorts of things. Obviously, labor market information, we've talked about this before. Make sure that it's a company with a bright outlook. Or maybe one of the HR policies is that you can work 4 10-hour days, something like that. So think about those things. The salary and benefits, obviously, we're not doing this for a hobby. We want to be sure that we're fairly compensated for the work that we're doing. And hopefully employers are paying attention to that when they're having such a hard time finding people, that they need to look at that and address that situation. So now you know what you should research. Now where do you do the research? Where do you find this information? And if you don't have a computer at home, like Sheila said, you can come in, sign up for a one-to-one, and use our computers to do your research, and we can help you out with that. But company websites and their press releases with the what's going on right now with their company. What are some major changes that were done? Maybe finding out did they purchase another company so they're growing, or did they, whatever they're doing in their press releases, maybe changing their product line so to be more proactive and to be sure that they stay stable in our economy. You can go to libraries within their reference section, talk to the librarians and see if they've got information. A lot of smaller companies may not have a big grandiose website. You may need to go to the library and go to their reference section. A lot of you had mentioned LinkedIn. Glassdoor was mentioned on trying to find out salaries. Make some connections. Find out who works over at Medtronics through LinkedIn connections, things like that. Career information sites, like the ones I showed you just a moment ago. You can also look up companies in those websites. Some of them are Minnesota only. If you're doing a nationwide job search, you might want to go to something like the United States National Labor Exchange website to look for companies and opportunities nationwide. Obviously, when you think about researching, use your network. Who do you know that works at one of these companies you want to talk to? See if you can get an informational interview with a department head or with the human resources. And it's an informational interview or conversation, if you will. Not an interview, no pressure. You just find out what do they do there. Would this be a good fit for you? And you know what? If it looks like it would be a good fit, maybe you get that person's information, and send them a copy of your resume. You know what? I like the products that you make. I like your organization. If something comes up in an area that would suit me, reach out to me. I'd be happy to come in for an interview. Because they want people who want to work there. That's their ideal candidate. If you want to work there, let them know that you would like to work there. It's great for them to know that. And check in with your local career force. We hear from employers all the time. I know I do here, and I'm guessing Sheila does. She's up in International Falls. I'm guessing she does as well. They're looking for people. They want our help. And so if you make a connection with your local career force, they may be a good conduit for you. So don't be afraid to call us up and talk to us about what should I do next? What can I do? Do you know anybody that works over at, or do you have a human resource contact at 3M or at Essentia? And reach out to us. So don't be afraid to call us and see if we can help you out. Now, here's one thing that you might learn more about in one of the coming up workshops, but it's a networking card. It's basically a business card that's about you. How do they reach you? When you go to the grocery store, you're probably not going to have your resume with you in a nice portfolio that you can hand to somebody if you run into them. This is something quick and easy you can have in your possession and pull it out and say, hey, you've got job openings. You're a friend of mine. Here's my contact information. Can we connect next week? Oftentimes you get a business card in return, which is kind of, you can just give them a call. It gives you that permission to reach out to them. So if you've got the interest in doing this, you can certainly use our printers. If you bring in cardstock, from OfficeMax, that's business cardstock, you can just print using our computers. Sorry, I think we only have black ink. But if you want something different, you can go to a website, and I think that I have a note of that. Vistaprint is one that you can go to and have a bunch of business cards printed up. Make sure that all the information is correct. There's nothing worse than getting 500 cards with your name all over it and the phone number is wrong. So be sure that everything is correct and that professional email is listed there. I might be tempted to use Pretty Grandma at yahoo.com, but that's probably not very professional to use. So use your professional email on there, your LinkedIn link if you've got one, or My eFolio if you have an online portfolio account. And then only appropriate graphics. Don't muddy it up with a bunch of cool, fancy stuff on there. You want them to have your information. And it will help them jog their memory when they get back to their desk on Monday, like, oh yeah, I ran into Rhonda at the grocery store and she said she's looking for a job, and we might have just the right thing here. So it's an easy way to get in front of people. And you know what? If you know that they know a lot of people, give them 4 or 5 business cards and give them the permission to hand them out to other people, okay? They may be out walking their dog and they run into somebody else they can give a business card to, and it can go on and on and on. So be sure that you hand them out, and it will help to build your network, which is great. Yes, clean and simple is always the best. You can put information on the back if you want to, but again, you don't want to limit yourself to only being a dental assistant. You want to put things on there like this. You're a sharp, quick learner, willing to get involved, and some of those transferable skills, so that you don't pigeonhole yourself into only one career opportunity, if you will. So that's one thing you can do. Now, and I think in one of the coming up workshops, you're also going to talk about portfolios, but this is something that you can use if you want to have copies of your reference letters, your certifications or awards that you've gotten, things like that, or even examples of the work that you've done. If you're a welder, maybe the coolest welding job you've ever done, the cleanest, sweetest weld you've ever made. Things like that you can show to your employer at the time of the interview. Obviously, you don't want to give them all your originals. If they want something, maybe you have a couple of copies tucked in behind that original you can give to them. It's an opportunity for them to look at you in more detail and show the true skills that you have. I think in Minnesota it's mnefolio.com that you can go to. That's a Minnesota specific. But yeah, places like Etsy, they've probably got lots of examples of what you can do. I don't think they care in my portfolio that I got a perfect attendance award in kindergarten. They don't want to know about that. But you know what? For the last 10 years here, I've had pretty darn good attendance at work. I'm reliable. That's the kind of stuff that they want to know about. So then you're going to hear more about that next week. So now you are thinking about references, and you want to choose people very carefully, people that can talk about you and the job you're looking for, and say it very well so that it's understood by the person on the other end of the phone what you are capable of doing. People who you've worked with before that can speak objectively about you. Avoiding those references that may be controversial. So my example might be the National Rifle Association. Maybe is a little controversial because you don't know the feelings and the experiences of that person that you are talking to, who you're giving references to. But you know what? If you're applying for a job at Gander Outdoor in the gun department, that might be a perfect reference for that. So just keep in mind, where am I applying for a job? Who might be sitting on the other side of the table? and is it an appropriate reference? So maybe Planned Parenthood might not be appropriate. You might love Planned Parenthood. No judgment, it doesn't matter, but you don't know who's sitting across the table from you. You know, using people that you worked with before, or instructors that you had in the past, or even at your former place of employment, vendors that came in or clients that came in. If you've got a good relationship with those folks, they might be perfect references. You always want to ask permission. Let them know when you're going to use their name, so you don't give out your references until you're asked for them. So you don't put them on your resume, you don't put them in your application, you wait until that employer asks for them, and then you give them the appropriate references for that job. And you always want to thank your references for their time, because they may be on the phone with this person for you know, a few minutes, and they may be the one thing that helps you get that job. So always thank them. Make sure that you know where they're going to be. So if they spend their summers up in Grand Marais and they have a landline only in Grand Marais, make sure that you get that landline number and you don't give out their cell phone number, because they might not have good cell service where they are. So be sure where you are, where they're going to be for the next period of time, okay? Let's find out what's the best way to reach them. References are, you know, it's important for you to have them. Some employers won't offer you a job until they've spoken to your references. Some references can only say when you worked there, what your job title was, and maybe your rate of pay. So you want to have a variety of references. And you know what? You can even send that reference when you get to that point, the resume that you used, because they may not know your entire history. Send them the job posting that you're looking for, so that they can maybe speak to a particular thing that they're looking for in that job that they know you are competent and able to take on. You don't want to have them lie, but you want them to be, obviously you don't want them to lie, but you don't want them to go into it unprepared. There's kind of nothing worse than getting a phone call and saying, yeah, you're listed as a reference for so-and-so, and we want to talk to you about their, can they go through a computer conversion? And you have no idea that you were even going to be used as a reference and that sort of thing. So be sure that you give them a heads up. Sheila, are there any questions that have come through that we need to talk about? We're up to the review slide and talking about what people's homework is for today. So if there's questions, we can certainly, we've got a few minutes to address those.
Yeah, there's a couple related to references, so we'll take a look at those.
Okay.
Someone is asking, what is all the information needed to put on for references? Do you just need their name and phone number? Or should we put how we know them?
Yeah, I think that name, you know, their best contact information, their name, how you know them, or where they are working, and I think that would be about it. You want it to be in the same format as your resume, so your address block at the top of it, so they know whose references they are, of course. But yeah, just some of that basic information on who they should talk to.
I've noticed a lot of online applications now ask for your references email address as well. So if you have that, that's a good thing to have too.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
And then we have a question, what if you only have one or two professional references?
You know, if that's all you have, and if they are truly applicable to the job that you're applying for, that's great. If you can get one personal reference or anything else that shows maybe a different side to you that might be of help, certainly add that as well. But if you've only got two that are spot on for that position, I would use those two.
And then someone mentioned that references are sometimes required on the company application.
Yeah, you know, you just kind of, if they're required on the application, you're just going to have to do it. But I would be sure and let those folks know right away that you had to submit their name. And if they're not going to be available, then maybe you can go into that application or contact that employer and update the information that you've given. Maybe they said, you know what, I'm gonna want to talk freely about all the great things you can do. Have them call me on my cell phone after 5 o'clock. That happened to me one time because he said, otherwise, if they call me at work, all I can tell them is your job title and when you worked here. If they call me on my personal phone, I can talk about the great stuff that you've done at work. So find out about that too.
Okay, and then one more question. How many references are recommended?
You know, I think that 3 is a good number. And so if you've got a professional one, if you have one from academia or you know, from an instructor that can speak about your, you know, those set of skills, whatever you've done most recently, and the ones that really can, like I said, be spot on to that job that you're applying for, and can speak to your ability to do that particular job, I think is the best. So there's no recommended number, but typically we see three of those. And I think they talk a little bit more about that in the resume workshop as well.
Okay, do you want to take one more question?
Sure.
Okay. It says many companies ask what years you attended school. How do you get around that question?
You know, again, if it's required, you may have to do it if you can get by it. If that's going to show your age and you don't particularly want to do that, see if you can get around it. They may want to just know how recent is your experience. You know, if you're in the IT field, you know, that changes so much. So if your degree in IT was from 1984, it's going to be a lot different than someone who gets a degree in 2020. So that may be that, but yeah, if you don't want to show your age and it's required, I think if that's what you need to do to get the application to process, I'm sorry to say that you might have to do that.
Okay, if we didn't get to a question or if it was a private one, we will respond to you by email.
Thank you, Sheila. So here's the final screen. So in review, going through and recovering from that job loss, getting it off your chest, get that anger, those hard feelings off your chest, so that you can face the challenges every day. Being positive is huge. It's going to make a huge difference in your job search. Developing that game plan, making sure that your computer is set up, that you know where all of your things are, that you, oh, hey, have your cell phone charged all the time. Have a cell phone charger at your station, right? You don't want to be in the middle of an interview and have your phone die and not know where the cord is. So getting organized, staying organized, doing the working on those SMART goals that Sheila explained so well to us. Doing your research, there's just that, I cannot express how important that is to know what is this company up to? What are they doing these days? Are they growing? Did they just buy a new business? All that stuff is great for you to know when you walk into that interview. It shows you have interest. And then just gathering up those tools that you need, you know, those networking cards if you want to do that, your portfolio if you want to do that, and then, finding some really good references that can be there for you. So I thank you for your time. I wish you all the best. Be sure you stay in touch with careerforcemn.com. Sign up for some of those one-on-one workshops. You know, we can certainly do those from Duluth or International Falls, but it's great to connect with your local career force because they're going to know what's going on in your neighborhood. If you want to come to Duluth for a job, I'm happy to help you, but I really encourage you to reach out to your local career force, and we will be sending you a list of those, or go to careerforcemn.com. Thanks, everyone. It's 11 o'clock. I wish you the best, and take care. Have a great day.